So first we want you to like and subscribe to Alexis and Allie on YouTube. We're going to be hopefully posting a lot more videos now that we kind of sort of know what we're doing a little bit
more
here.
Thanks to Bella.
Thanks to Bella. So we are also on Instagram and Facebook and soon to be Pinterest.
Yes. And our link is in our bio on Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's easy to find us.
So last week we started talking about what it's like to mom adult children, because momming is something that lasts your entire life until you take your last breath. So today we want to dive into a topic within that topic, which would be...
Well, I guess it's just parenting adult kids, our expectations of them when they become adults.
Yeah, and they move home.
Yeah, so I was really thinking about this a lot. And, you know, you have a 22-year-old and mine is...
At home.
Yeah, and so
During
mine
school.
is a newly adult because he's just 18.
Since he's a boy, I mean, he's not going to actually be an adult until he's probably like 30.
Correct.
But they think they're adults.
Right. So then that's the challenge.
Yeah.
And, you know, so you think about, you know, I kind of said last week on the video, you go from them asking permission for things to kind of just telling you what their plan is for that night or that day or whatever. And so you're kind of like, oh, I don't have a say in it anymore. Yes, I do still have a say in it, right? So, so I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about the different stages of parenting. So when they are toddlers and adolescents, we are in our teacher phase of parenting, like teaching them,
rules.
Right, here are the rules, these are the boundaries, you know, did your kids write on the wall with permanent marker? Mine did.
Yeah.
Hey,
And my
we
leather
don't
seats
do
in
that.
my car.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And your leather seats. Hey, this is a no-no. These are the consequences. No, you're not Spider-Man. Please don't try to throw a web from your top bunk because you will break a bone. You know, so we're in the teacher phase. And then they get to be teenagers. Yeah. And all the boundaries that you taught them, they're just testing away, right? So, and they're also testing our sanity.
Breaking rules, you know, trying to figure out like who they are and
how far can I push these boundaries?
Boundaries, and are these really rules?
Mm-hmm. And so you're still teaching them, you know, it's bigger issues. They're not drawing on the walls anymore, but they're breaking curfew or school. Right, or they're telling you they're lying, or they're lying to you. Yeah, you know, and so you're finding out. So so there's, you know, that aspect. They're driving, they have a little bit more freedom. Thanks to Life 360, we can still track them a little bit. And their speed, right.
Yeah, I have a speeder.
Right, so that, you know, those are the stages, and then they become these adults. And they think that they can handle
life.
They're ready for life.
Yeah.
They think they're ready for life. They know everything. Mm-hmm. They know how the world works. Yeah. They're ready for it, right? And so we're as parents are here to say, you know nothing. Mm-hmm. You're still living under our roof.
Or back living under our roof. So like yours never left. Yeah. Mine left for 4 years, right? And now he's back. So he's been back since March, and it's this huge adjustment. I mean, it's an adjustment every time your college student comes home anyways, just because they're like, I don't have these rules at school, but now I have them here. And now he is a permanent resident in my home, doing school and working and being a 22-year-old college student who knows everything there is to know about life. Right? And how to be an adult. So
there is that aspect of it, because in reality, they should not be home right now.
Oh, I shouldn't have to know all day long every single thing that he's doing.
No.
But I do, because we live together.
Yeah. And so my 18-year-old is the same thing. If in reality, he would be at college. Like, he wouldn't be saying, hey, I'm going here tonight with my friends. He would just be going to do it. Mm-hmm. So that is where I have been thinking about what is the word that I'm thinking of.
Like expectations.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, they don't meet your expectations. So my husband and I were having a conversation this morning about our oldest son, Cooper, and he was like, he's 22. We shouldn't have to tell him to put water bottles in the refrigerator or to make his bed, and I'm like, Yeah, but we do. So, because we know every little thing he does all day long. That's the reality that we're living in. And if he was at school, I mean, I wouldn't know if he got up and went to class or not. I mean, I would know by his grades, his performance, obviously.
But you wouldn't know that day.
I would know every little detail of every decision that he made. You know, what he ate for lunch,
Right.
or who he was in contact with as far as his friends were, or if he exercised, or if he made his bed.
Right. So,
or picked up his wet towel.
Yeah. Yeah, and the same thing for me is, you know, I'm walking into Christian's room at 11 a.m. and I'm like, what, you're still sleeping?
Oh,
like,
that makes my husband so mad.
get up. Like,
Yeah.
what's your plan today? Do you have a plan today?
Mhm.
Like, and so he's just kind of like, oh, I'm just the annoying mom.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's like, get out of my room.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of positive in him being home still.
Mhm.
I feel like I have to teach him life lessons.
Yeah.
Like, the kid doesn't know how to do his laundry. I mean, I have to teach. I mean, he's 18
He can watch
years
a
old.
YouTube video.
No, I know. It's my fault. It's not his
I
fault.
know. My first
I
one's
should
like
have
that
been
too.
like,
Yeah.
this is how you do your laundry.
Do it when you don't have clothes to wear.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he makes his own food and stuff like that as far as lunch and stuff. But he knows he's walking in. I have dinner prepared for him. And there's just, you know.
They don't realize how good they have it.
So being home almost restricts them a little bit because they
yeah.
don't have to really think for themselves because, hey, they have us moms to hop in and say, hey, this is what you're doing today. You're getting up, you're washing the car, you have to, you know,
Take your sister here.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you pick your sister? I mean, he is
Yeah.
helping in those ways too. So, but I think it comes down to the word expectations and what we expect from them at this age.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of ways, they're kind of set up to fail as far as meeting our expectations right now, because our expectations of them are what we expect of ourselves, right? So, like,
Yeah.
you get up in the morning, you're up by 6:30, you do your workout, you go to work, right? You
Yes.
produce, and you're effective, and they are still like figuring out what that is, and they're kind of stuck, right? They're stuck with us, we're stuck with them,
Right.
and it's this struggle of
the hardest thing about parenting, I think, is watching your kid make mistakes.
oh yeah.
And allowing it to happen because you just want to be like, no, this, you're doing everything wrong. This is completely wrong. Here's how you avoid this mistake.
Right.
And we can't do it. You almost have to, especially
Your
first
child.
children.
Absolutely.
Oh my!
Oh,
and we
yeah.
want to come to their state, like we're like, because we're learning sometimes as they're learning. Like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, they're our guinea pig.
They are. And your second kid, you're like, oh, I did that with your brother, and you will never
No.
do that.
And
Because
so here's
that
what- yeah.
was nothing but a giant time suck, and everybody was miserable,
Yeah.
and you're not doing it. And they'll say, but Christian got to. I hear, but Cooper got to do that. I'm like, well, we love him more. Sorry.
And
Just
you know what I say? I say, and it was a mistake.
Yep, it was a
And we're
mistake.
not gonna. You don't make mistakes twice.
Yeah.
So we were learning. So the whole, college process too. You learn a lot.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I told my son, my second son Ryan, I said we learned a lot. So don't expect what your brother did to happen with you because we've kind of weeded out the things that we need to do and the things that we don't need to do. But
My two kids are the same either.
exactly. And so our second children seem to be a little bit more independent
And resilient.
and resilient.
I think they're very resilient.
Oh, and by the third, by my daughter, forget it. The girl can handle anything.
She's raising the older two. Did she raise mine?
Yeah, I know. No, she's in charge. She's in
Yeah,
charge. She's
she's
12, by the way.
She's
She's
amazing.
12. I don't have to worry
She's
about her.
absolutely
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So I think that just the expectations of everything and us being able to say, okay, you're this age now. You should know what our expectations are. But when they don't, us sitting back and just saying, like,
And just, we always say, don't sweat the small stuff. So when they are doing, like, there's nothing that irritates my husband more than when my kids stay in bed until like 11 o'clock. So my husband went to a military school and he's an engineer, so he's like,
yeah.
right? And we get up in the morning, like we go to bed at night, and we are people who get up and we exercise and we're productive, like right out. And my kids are like in the bed.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes him crazy. But if they're doing all the other stuff and they want to sleep in one day a week, just they're learning. And
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is just knowing that they're never going to meet all your expectations in your home. They're just not. And it doesn't mean you lower your expectations. It just means like, okay, so what are the top 3 things that I want my kids to accomplish, right? I want them to work. I want them to get good grades, and I want them to exercise or whatever. You decide with your family
Right. So if
what those things are. And then the other little things you can tweak here and there.
I was gonna say, so on those days, if they leave their towels on the floor, you just zip it up. You don't
it makes
say
me so
anything.
mad, though.
Because,
just take a picture and text it to them.
Yeah, just because then we're nags. I don't want to be the nag.
And it's exhausting.
It is.
But the biggest thing that your kids are learning, good and bad, is what you model. I mean, Bill and I say that all the time, which is why we get up, and it's why we choose to exercise, and it's why we try to have healthy communication, although we really suck at it a lot of the time, because it's hard. Healthy communication is really hard, but we, you know, your kids become what they're around, right?
Yeah.
And so they're watching every little thing that you do. You know, if I even try to address something with my son, I'm like, you know, you were disrespectful in this, and he's like, well, you were disrespectful with me. It's immediate, like projecting onto me, right? Well, you did this, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I just want to be like, I'm in charge.
Yeah.
It's my house, my rules.
Okay.
And it's so hard.
So
right?
there is that. Okay, yes, they should be at college right now. However, they're not at college right now. They're in our house. There are rules to this house.
Yeah.
You must respect our rules, whether you agree with them or not, because there are rules in this house. And of course, we want you to be here and we want you to stay. So we're just asking for some respect in those terms. But you said something, wait, I have to think about what you said. Gosh, this is my age is here. You said something and I wanted to. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to you. It was something that you said. Communication. So when they do get to this certain age of adults where they think that, I think it's important for us to, even if we don't agree with what they did or what they're saying, is for us to listen, because that's how we're going to find out their perspective of what's going on, right?
Even if their perspective is
completely wrong. I think we instead of barking at them and saying, this is wrong, you did this wrong, blah, 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 you should have been here, you know, whatever. We should just say, okay, what happened?
Yeah. And
just listen, because I think it's really interesting to see their perspective of the situation as well. And you see their maturity in that situation. Or lack of, right?
Yeah.
And say,
here's a perfect example. So 2 weeks ago, my son had a test in a class on a Sunday. So I always tell Allie, you know, the tests open on Monday and they're due Sunday night at midnight. So he's usually doing them around 8 o'clock on Sunday night, which irritates the ever-living crap out of me, because I'm like, why would you put this off all week long? Mm-hmm. Whatever. So
that's behavioral thing. I mean, personality thing. Yeah.
Anyways, so we were talking about a test that he had gotten back, and he'd got a C on it. Now, prior to that test, I said, do you have your test, you know, this weekend? And he's like, yeah. I said, should you study? And he's like, listen, I looked at the material. I know the material. There's only so much that you can do. Mm-hmm. So mind you, days are going by and he is not studying and he is not looking at the material and he's watching Netflix, and I'm starting to slowly lose my mind, right? Because I'm thinking, maybe I should just look at it and quiz him, right? I'm thinking about all of the ways that I can.
You're thinking about how to get involved.
What can I do? I need to be proactive here. I'm the mom. And he ended up getting a 78 on the test, and I was so angry with him because this was completely preventable, and he hasn't had the best grades. So I was like, what in the world? So I just kind of waited because, you know, the mom in me wanted to be like, you idiot, I told you this was going to happen, right? Which would have just set him off. Yeah. Right.
You wanted to say, this is your doing.
You did this, right? So I just kind of waited, and then when the next test came around, I said, hey, you know, the last test, and we just kind of talked about it. I said, do you think there's anything that you could do differently? And he's like, well, I didn't look at, you know, these slides or whatever, and so there was some PowerPoint or something like that. So, you know, but just kind of asking the questions to get him thinking and resourcing himself rather than being like, you should have done this, and this,
Right.
and then this, and this would have happened.
So communicating better, just talking instead of barking at them.
Well, they know
and
what we
say-
expect of them. They know it.
I agree with that. You know, sometimes like, well, my husband, he didn't know that. I'm like, he knows.
They
He's lived in this
know.
house for 18
They know.
years.
But they also, I think, sometimes living with us, when they can't meet our expectations, they just stop trying.
Yeah.
So and then that gets to be this dangerous area where it's like, well, I can't meet any of her expectations, so I'm just going to blow her off and ignore her or them. You know, you and your spouse. And if you're single momming it or single dadding it, you know, it's you and that's it.
And it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Micromanaging is exhausting. And my husband's whole thing is, you should tell them once, and if they don't do it, then there's a consequence. I'm like, except when something's due for school, or he has he has deadlines too, just even preparing for school, certain courses that he had to take by a certain date. So like, if it was due September 1st, Christian was doing it August 31st. Because it's not due till September 1st. I'm like,
That's first child.
just get it done.
That's my first child.
Check it off.
Yeah.
Like, you have so many other things happening. Why don't you want to do this? But I do think that it matters the order of, right? It's a first child thing.
Oh, totally. We're gonna have a whole episode on birth order because that could be like five episodes.
Oh, yeah.
That could
We
be
should
like
get
5
our
episodes.
children on, and you could see their different personalities as we ask them maybe the same questions, right?
There's actually a book that's called The Birth Order. It's by Dr. Richard Lehman, I believe. Oh. It's a great book, and you could be walking through the grocery store and overhear conversations and be like, middle child, female, older brothers,
It's
right?
so
like you could
true.
just, or baby of the family. So I'm the oldest child. I'm married to the baby of 2 older sisters. So there's obviously I'm married to a man. So yeah, he's the baby of 2 older sisters.
So he adapts well.
He does adapt well, but he also had, these women who just adored him and did everything for him too. So there's that whole dynamic.
That's a whole nother one too then.
But I think the biggest thing to take away kind of from this episode of Alexis and Allie is your expectations of your kids, because they're never going to meet your expectations. If your adult children are living in your adult home, especially if there aren't younger siblings there. So like, Allie still has younger kids there, so there's still kid stuff happening. Like, this is a completely adult house in my own home. So my youngest went off to boot camp to become a Marine. He's going to grow up real quick.
Yeah.
And then
so you don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I don't have to deal with that. That's somebody else's problem for right now. But my oldest is here in a very adult home, where we have adult expectations, and he still has a very college student mindset. Although I will say this fall it's definitely starting to shift, like because he's so sick of us. He's ready to graduate and get away from us.
Okay, so that's the consequence, right? Now, and then that's the motivation to get done so you can move out and move forward.
He wants to do his own thing.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think just letting them know what the expectations are, and communicating, just instead of
being realistic.
And being realistic, and just knowing that they're growing up in front of you, even though in reality they wouldn't be. They would be off at college.
And you wouldn't know.
And you would have no idea.
Not know if they were in class or what they were having for lunch or who they were spending their time with or what text messages they were getting or what they were binge watching or all of those things. And it was a real blessing, I gotta say.
Yeah. No,
to get a little break.
I agree.
A little break from that. So
and then communication. I think that is big. Just talking. Here's why I'm frustrated. I don't want to be yelling at you, barking at you all the time. I don't want you to be counting the days till you do get to go to school. I want you to enjoy it here. But here's what I expect from you.
Yeah, and this is work.
And this is it. This is life. You want to talk about real life? Yeah. This is life. Yeah. And so anyway, we hope that you could, that you take something away from this and maybe learn something. If you have older kids at home, shouldn't be home, but are home.
Yeah.
And
it's tough. It's tough. So definitely leave us a comment too if you are struggling with these expectations with your kids that are at home. kind of what those are, if yours are different, kind of than the things that we've discussed on here today, because there certainly are a lot of different expectations that we have of our kids that they either meet or don't.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're going to do the same thing when they're off and on their own, right? I mean, I'm sure that your parents sometimes don't necessarily agree with the decisions that you make for your family because they expect something different. And the same with my family, you know, so it's
very true.
That's never going to go away.
I was going to say
just
that
in your home.
that parenting thing that you said at the beginning, how that just will never go away, is so true because my parents still parent me.
Yeah, and they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't want me to make mistakes either, right? So I guess we understand that a little bit better now.
Yeah.
So now later this week we're going to be talking to hopefully one of our friends.
Yeah, let's
hopefully
hope so.
Get her on here. And she has 5 kids, and they're older.
Mm-hmm.
And so
her youngest just left.
And we're going to pick her brain a little bit. So hopefully we can schedule that this week.
Yeah. Yeah, she will be on here regardless whether it's this week or not. But
Yes.
it's a good time while we're talking about momming adult kids.
She knows a lot. She's been through a
Oh,
lot.
and she's amazing. Right. She has a great relationship with all of her kids, which is so inspiring, you know? When there are days you feel like you want to just kill your own.
Yes, yes. Okay, so good. So we hope that you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And leave us your comments about your different momming adult kids topics, because the topics are certainly endless.
Yes.
Endless momming
Yes,
adult
talk to
kids.
us.
So yes, have a great week and we'll see you soon.
Okay.